is.
And Chris Bowen, of course, the government minister most in the spotlight this week. Any sympathy for him, or did he fail the common sense test?
Look, he didn't succeed with this kid. There's no reason. We understand now it took 3 days to get back to Christmas Island because they were held up at Port Edmund or something.
Derby.
Why this kid had to leave Sydney, no one can really work out. I think one of the problems might be that after various scandals in the immigration department under the previous government, there was a strict demarcation between ministerial powers and the department power. So what the department said went, so there could be no suggestion of ministerial interference. It might be that Chris Bowen has been caught up with those safeguards, but logic and I'd argue from a base of ignorance, medical opinion would say to you that if that kid had any problems, taking him back to Christmas Island would not lessen those problems, it would exasperate them.
And that was the view of Professor Louise Newman, who advises the government. She's chairperson of a group that advises the government. She said that's the worst possible outcome.
But also, people have been saying this for months. I mean, as Sarah Hanson-Young pointed out, it was obvious when this trauma happened, these people, children, should not be kept locked up in detention, an overcrowded, fraught detention centre at the scene of the deaths. I mean, really, everything wrong about that. And, you know, in terms of taking the advice of the department, I mean, the word around is that very senior department officials were saying quite clearly to the head of the department, I will have no part of this is wrong. I think Chris Bowen didn't think this through clearly enough and early enough, and once it was pointed out to him, of course, blind Freddie could see that 9-year-old should be thrown back.
Because I mean, his compassion gene was on show, and the fact that he actually brought the families across for the funerals, and then he just seemed to completely misjudge the next step.
That was a no-brainer.
Well, but
yes, and again, I think
so should have the boy been a no-brainer.
And that was the advice of the department and I think of Australian Federal Police he accepted. He didn't initiate it, he accepted. I'm not saying Chris Bowen wouldn't have, but again, I'm saying that the department has a greater control over these things than you might think.
And the bottom line, though, is he has got ministerial discretion in these matters.
Well,
he admitted it himself. He's been releasing children out of detention, as he points out, even though they've got 1,000 still in there. But he's done it before. Why didn't he do it? But he also
said, the minister said, this is the advice from the people who are caring for them, the social workers, the counsellors caring for them on Christmas Island. Well, that's a different story than the one from Louise Newman, who said she's spoken to the professionals on Christmas Island who are all saying this boy is deeply traumatised and needs to be moved.
You wonder how the politics are going to play out, though, because, of course, the coalition would argue we've got 1,000 children in detention because Labor's weakened its border protection policies and allowed 200 boats to come. I mean, and that's a fair argument as well.
Well, I think that's part of the problem, that Chris Bowen and Labor all the time foresee that argument coming, so they try to keep things under the radar and quiet as possible. They don't want to do anything to raise a red flag, and, you know, maybe leaving these people here after the funerals might have raised questions. Well, they got it wrong. They got it completely wrong this time.
The question being asked on a lot of commercial talkback radio all the time is, what would Jesus have done? They raise that question themselves. Well, he's not available, but Kevin Andrews, this is what Kevin Andrews would have done.
I can only indicate that what I would have done, or what my approach would have been in that situation. It would have been motivated by compassion for the individual, and it would have been about trying to find the best circumstances for that young boy.
Do you think he would have?
Well, he would have sent